Alright everybody, it's Waifu Belector here to talk about a not so surprising revelation because a few days ago we got the kinda unfortunate news that the Knights of the Old Republic remake may be completely dead and in the dirt already. And I say kind of unfortunate news because I think it depends on how you looked at the whole thing to begin with. There were a couple of different outlooks, at least one of which could have easily led you to be, at the very least, unfazed by this news. Anyway, let's talk about it, and remember to like and subscribe if you feel like it. Okay, now this information is coming from popular and reliable industry insider Jeff Grubb, who said that he can 100% confirm that this game is on ice, and that it's not being worked on in any way by any studio. It's a full stop. That's what he said. And to be honest, this can't be surprising to really anyone. The writing's been on the walls for this game the very moment it was announced. As a recap, the KOTOR remake was announced back in 2021 with a 1-minute teaser featuring Darth Revan, and that was the last we heard of it officially for a good long while. What also never sounded good from the very beginning was the team chosen to develop this game, Aspyr Studios. Who the hell is that? Well, their portfolio and track record consist of porting games over to mobile, including their port of the original Knights of the Old Republic onto iOS and Android. And that kind of work, porting to mobile, does not denote the ability to build an entire console game from scratch, let alone a big old fucking RPG. I guess I can understand the ill-advised thinking to some degree. Whoever put Aspyr up to this was probably thinking, well, they'll be great because they know KOTOR inside and out, because they had to port it. But that doesn't mean that they can rebuild it and reshape it with modern graphics and updated gameplay where necessary while still being true to the original. I get that Aspyr would have work to copy from, but they still have to recreate it and do it better, honestly. And nothing Aspyr has ever done would tell you that they even have an inkling of the necessary abilities to make that happen. And I highly doubt that their higher ups at Embracer Group or whoever the fuck saw the potential in Aspyr either, which is why it always appeared to be an ill-advised choice. And it also explains why a year after the remake's announcement, the reins were taken from Aspyr and given to Saber Interactive, who, while not the most impressive group of devs, have a more impressive portfolio than Aspyr. But still not very impressive, mind you. A lot of video game tie-ins, simulator games, ports, and supporting other studios on their projects. But Saber at least has made full real console games, so yeah, Saber is certainly better, but still not some incredible studio. They don't inspire a ton of faith either. The task of recreating this game from scratch and improving upon it along the way is hardship enough for Aspyr or Saber Interactive, and that's before we even factor in the possibility of having to run this shit past Disney and Lucasfilm. After all, we've heard a lot of different teams of people talk about the somewhat rigorous process of doing anything Star Wars and what the collaboration with those Disney people is like. Although I assume a lot of that can be bypassed or shortened up if they just planned on the KOTOR remake being 100% faithful narratively and thus maintaining its non-canonical status. Because the Disney and Star Wars people probably care a whole lot less about what you do with the stories that don't count. Although there's probably still some supervision to keep things from getting too crazy or silly. Like if you did a non-canon story where Darth Vader is just getting his ass kicked all over the place, I don't think they'd go for that. But anyway, could you imagine how much more hell this game would have to go through, how much less stable the ground beneath them would be if the plan is to actually try and canonize KOTOR? Because would you then go in attempting to change only what you absolutely have to change to make it fit but still be as faithful as possible to the original? Or do you just go and do what is virtually an entirely different story that works off the same framework and characters, even though those characters' origins and stories are different? Because you gotta think, the whole twist where the player is Revan doesn't really work great in a coherent canon universe, not with the structure of Knights of the Old Republic. My point is that all of this would be a hell of a jumbled up task and a nightmare of a first outing for a studio that has never done an actual big console-based game before in Aspyr, or even for Saber Interactive, who's never been the main dev team on a game this notable or this size. Even in the best versions of this scenario where Saber Interactive is doing KOTOR, it's a pretty bad idea. So yeah, I'm not too surprised that the timeline has been us getting an announcement for this game that has nothing ready but a logo. Then they say nothing for 2 years until we finally hear that it's all but dead. This was a high possibility, to be truthful. I'm also not very broken up about it if it is indeed true. However, Jason Schreier reports that at least 2 people at Saber Interactive have told him that they're still on the KOTOR remake. Now, this could just mean that they're still assigned to the game but haven't touched it in a while, or possibly they are actually working on the game and the Jeff Grubb report wasn't completely true. Regardless, I think it's fair to say that the KOTOR remake is clearly in trouble. Once again though, I'll say I'm not too broken up about it, because while I am a huge Star Wars fan and it's one of my favorite entertainment franchises ever, I don't miss the old canon and was sort of happy when a lot of it got wiped. Not that there weren't great parts that it was unfortunate to see go, but it got overly messy, too hard to keep up with, and too stuffed with overly powerful characters. I do think it would be cool to see some of those characters revisited and rewritten into the current canon, but I don't really need it, or at least I'm not in a rush to it. I would prefer a more organic insertion into naturally flowing stories, kind of like how they brought back Thrawn or the Gendai or whatever. And I don't see them using Revan in a non-canon capacity because they clearly know that people love Revan and want them recanonized, even going as far as nods and Easter eggs pointing towards Revan's existence. But that will also mean that Revan's lore won't be the same. And it would be confusing to have a new game out with fake lore while also promoting Revan appearing in canon material but telling people to ignore the new non-canonical stuff. It just seems like all signs point to making a KOTOR remake canon making the most sense. But that canonization and the rewrites that come with that probably deserve better than Aspire Studios or Saber Interactive. Beloved characters like Revan deserve more. And ultimately, I think people in rooms that matter realize that, and that's why the game is currently a corpse. But yeah, alright, those are my thoughts on what is kinda a predictable headline. Let me know what you think if you're a KOTOR fan or just a big Star Wars fan in general like me. Hope you enjoyed. I really appreciate any likes on the video and subscriptions to the channel. Thanks for watching, but until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai, and at least we're still getting Star Wars Outlaws. Goodbye.